lots of sunlight today. I might be able to capture something interesting this week, depending on the weather. And what's going on today? I guess the stories and stuff continue about the war between Ukraine and Russia with drones. How about this one? This one says Ukraine war. Russia launches biggest kamikaze drone attack. That doesn't look too, nice, for the picture anyways. It says air raid sirens have sounded across Ukraine after Russia launched a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes. Explosions were heard overnight in the capital Kyiv, where the mayor said 5 people had been injured in the biggest kamikaze drone attack so far. According to this, it says it marks the 4th attack in 8 days on Kyiv and comes just 24 hours before Russia celebrates Victory Day. The annual holiday commemorates the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany during the World War II, a conflict that the Kremlin has baselessly tried to draw parallels with since launching its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year. After a lull in Russian attacks on civilian targets in recent months, which saw Kyiv go days without an attack, Moscow has intensified its air raids over the past week ahead of a widely expected Ukrainian counter-offense. And according to this, it says they launched their attacks shortly after midnight. I guess they don't want people to get sleep. It says Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said nearly 60 drones had been launched by Russia, describing it as the biggest such attack so far. He added that all 36 drones had been destroyed over Kyiv, but 5 people had been injured by falling debris from downed drones. And with that, there were videos posted on, drone counters. It says last night, 35 of 35 Russian drones were shot down. 30 of them targeted Kyiv. On this day of remembrance and victory over Nazism in World War II, today's Nazis, Russes are destroying peaceful cities. The empire of which they dream will fade into obscurity, just like its predecessors. Non-stop war, as you can see. One thing was kind of funny, you know how they released that new Mavic 3 Pro? I was just reading some comments. People were saying, okay, now they see why companies are releasing drones like that because they know it's going to be used for war in cases like these where people modify it. Maybe that's the case, I don't know. But either way, I guess some people are profiting over war like these constantly, selling weapons and all that. Then I read this today, which was kind of interesting. It talked about that lady Elizabeth Holmes, who's apparently going to jail for that Theranos scandal. And there was this article that was written about her that talked about how you're wondering how so many people fall for her and so forth. And because of that, they write down things how she's so good at this and that. And that actually made people upset. It's kind of interesting. This one says, Elizabeth Holmes left to her own devices. Critics are flaming the New York Times for posting earlier this morning what they say is an overly empathetic 5,500 word profile of Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes, but writer Amy Chozick is in on the con. In fact, her story may provide the clearest understanding yet of how Holmes so captivated investors, business partners, and US media before the Wall Street Journal finally blew the lid on her company beginning in late 2015. So apparently there were some, excerpts of what was said. Like here it says, then I realized why they kept opening the door wider. Miss Holmes is unlike anyone I've ever met. Modest but mesmerizing. If you are in her presence, it is impossible not to believe her, not to be taken with her and be taken in by her. Liz Holmes and Billy Evans know that. I politely declined their invitation. So again, with that, they're trying to say, why people were manipulated by the person, but with the reactions like this person wrote here, nice to be a pretty white lady working your charm on an NYT reporter. Or others saying here, pretty incredible to write a performatively angsty bazillion word profile of Elizabeth Holmes without ever addressing the certainty that her lies would have killed people if she hadn't been busted, or the equal certainty that she herself knew this. So on the flip side, they say here, it is not an easy thing to pull off. First, as any reporter can tell you, writing a profile piece that does not feature at least some puffery is not easy, and profiling someone like Holmes has to be more complicated than most. She hasn't talked to the media since 2016, and she is a highly persuasive character who managed to make many powerful people bend to her will. As former Theranos employee and whistleblower Tyler Schultz told CBS News earlier last year of Holmes, Elizabeth is a very, very charismatic person. When she speaks to you, she makes you feel like you are the most important person in her world in that moment. She almost has this reality distortion field around her that people can just get sucked into. So it's kind of interesting. I can kind of see both perspectives where one, you have to essentially explain why people fell for it. At the same time, with that in mind, it's one of those things, it comes down to, as I always say, it's life consistency. That's what I've learned anyways. The person can seem nice and all that. I mean, think of it like drones and so forth. They're fake gurus, lobbyists. They say they're on your side. You're like, wow, it's like a great person. But in the background, they're actually just doing whatever it is to take people's money, to get more clout and so forth. I think that's what helped me stay away from like fake gurus and all that, because again, it comes down to consistency. See who did this from day one. They're against this and that and so forth. Did they actually start selling stuff? Because most people, they just manipulate your emotion. And then once they manipulate your emotion, in my opinion, it would be kind of like in this situation where if they're taking advantage of a trend per se, having some kind of partnership with a well-known name, then no one's gonna say anything because they're like, oh, I don't want to jeopardize like my own opportunity. I better be nice to them, or hopefully they'll get like a piece of the pie and so forth. It's kind of interesting in either way, I guess, but in general, as I always say, it just comes down to consistency in life when you evaluate, I guess, people anyways. It's just more impressive when I observe it who actually avoided the fake gurus and all that and saw them from day one. Alright, see you guys later.